I don't know about you, when I'm looking for a plumber, I like to read my reviews. HomeAdvisor.com gave me some reviews on our sponsor, Art of Plumbing. Called them. They arrived on time. Immediately found the plumbing issue and fixed it right the first time. I called them last year and it was great. I called them again this year because I had a problem again. They came out, they fixed the problem. They even gave me solutions to help stop the problem in the future at 541-9405.
Hey, come take a walk with me, not like you used to do. Do something different and put yourself in other people's shoes. Open up your mind and open up your eyes and change your direction, change your perspective.
Thank you so much for joining us on Other People's Shoes. As you know, I am your host, Neil Matthews, and this is again exciting times that we live in. I love it when we get on a plane together and go to someplace we've never been before. And this is true. We've never been to South Dakota as a show. I don't know what's here. I don't know if there's buffalo. There could be Eskimos. There could be snow. I really don't know. But what I do know is we're going to find a very amazing woman. In fact, she is so amazing. She is probably the sweetest voice and spirit that I've encountered in a little while. So help me welcome in my guest, Vona Johnson. Vona, how are you today?
I'm doing fabulous. Thank you. Thanks for having me on the show today. I love your intro. We do have buffalo, no Eskimos, and no snow today.
Well, that's a little disappointing on the snow thing because, you know,
wait a couple of months. We'll have it.
I don't love to drive in snow. I love to play in snow, but I don't like to drive in snow. So do you struggle with that?
I love snow. And I one of the funnest things to do is when you got it piled up and you can go hop in your 4-wheel drive and buzz around and, you know, push people out and stuff like that. Yeah, I think that's awesome.
Well, I think the reason why I don't love to drive in snow, when I tell you this, maybe this will, hopefully it doesn't change your mind any, but I was driving in our little area of Oregon. I was driving up to this place called Diamond Lake. Actually, no, check that. We were going to Sun River. We were near Diamond Lake when this story takes place. And it was late at night, and I was with my friend John. And John and I were just talking. We were having a conversation, and all of a sudden, we're in my Trailblazer, and my Trailblazer does a full 360.
Oh, yeah.
And we weren't even going that fast. I think we might have even been doing like 30. I mean, it's dark. Anyway, 360. So John is like 6'2". He's going to be mad at me if I get the weight wrong, but he's a big dude. And he would even call himself a big black bald man. So he's a big dude. He could probably play football. And so out of instinct, I don't know what I was thinking, but I put my arm out like an arm bar and I go across the passenger seat to somehow hold this big, you know, amazing man of God in his seat. And what's interesting about that, you know, none of us got hurt. The Trailblazer got pretty mangled in the front because we hit the snowbank. But fast forward, we're on our way back, and I didn't want to drive in the snow. So John's like, hey, I'll drive. I'm like, okay, cool, you drive. So on the way back, it's light, it's daytime, still snow on the ground, and we do it again. We do another 360. And you know what's interesting about that? John did not hold me in the seat. Well, John did not armbar me. No. So I'm telling on John right now.
You can always hold that over him.
You know how many times I hold that over him? Like daily. In fact, that reminds me, I should like text him right now after we're done and remind him of the fact that I saved his life. He always rolls his eyes when that happens. So anyway.
It can be very dangerous. I literally, one time we were on our way, we should not have been driving. And you know, you live here long enough, you should just know better. But my son was playing hockey, and so I was catching a ride down. It was about 3.5 hours normally away. And it was icy. We knew it was cruising down the interstate. There wasn't anybody else around. And as we were driving, it just started going sideways. And then we kind of whipped back around. It was actually very beautiful because it was like in slow motion. And the driver fortunately didn't panic and pulled us out of it. And we just kept right on going. But that could have been a whole different story. So I'm just going to venture out there that you probably weren't driving on snow. I'm pretty sure you were driving on ice.
Well, and I think we were, but Yeah,
Yeah.
it definitely wasn't
Anyway,
powdery for sure. So
right.
before we go down
Anyway,
too far the snow road, see transition. That's a technical term for a transition for those who are taking notes at home. That's called a podcast transition. Um, so let's talk about this. The most important question I think you'll ever be asked in your lifetime, and that's this question. Vona, what size shoes do you wear?
and of course I knew this question was coming, and I'm going to throw you for a loop because I wear a size 39.
So you got to be European style, right?
You bet.
Okay. So that's awesome. I love that. And so people can go find out what that means and Google that and do all that fun stuff, which I love the intrigue on that. That's fun. Is there a style or brand that you like more than another?
Absolutely. And it kind of goes back to I sent you a message after we talked a while back. I am a Birkenstock girl. I have 4 pair lined up by my door right now so I can slip in before I head out. And what's the really cool part of it is off season when I can't wear sandals anymore. I love wearing boots, and I have my Birkenstock inserts to wear in my boots. So all the way.
So we mentioned at the onset, first off, Birkenstocks. I don't know if I'm really excited about that still. So we're going to just maybe set that on the table and just kind of move forward. But we talked about the opening, right? You're in the South Dakota area. So, Vona, help us out. What on earth possesses somebody to be in South Dakota? And then what do you kind of do there? I mean, because I'm envisioning like this whole nother world of, I don't know. My imagination probably is running rampant and not giving me accurate information. So I'm going to need your help to give us some accurate information.
It's pretty much like anywhere else. We're just very remote. We have our 2 largest cities on either side of the state. I'm smack in the middle, live on the river. So I grew up going to the beach every day. Now, this is not the beach like I love to go to, say, in Florida or wherever, but I got to go play in the water most days every summer when I was growing up. But truly, where I'm at, we have like quote mountains on one side of the state, probably not anything like you're used to. But the Black Hills, and then we have Mount Rushmore, which is there. In the middle where I'm at, we have rolling hills, prairie, not a lot of trees, very flat. But I mean, we do all the things, when my kids were little, my son played soccer, he played hockey. I was a hockey mom. We live and work. We just, do everything everybody else does. We just don't have traffic here. Like for me, a traffic jam when I was driving to work would be when it took me more than 5 minutes to get there.
Yeah, you mentioned work and you first off, hockey mom, that probably has its own excitement and its own stories to it, I would imagine. I grew up playing hockey, but street hockey.
I knew I liked you.
Yeah, not ice hockey. There's the snow reference again, but I grew up playing street hockey, and to me, there was nothing cooler than getting out and playing street hockey on the asphalt. A lot of scraped hands, a lot of just fun, just summers spent playing street hockey. But you talk about your work and what you do. So I am curious, what do you do out there in South Dakota? What kind of helps get you up in the morning? And maybe it's a job, maybe there's other things.
Well, currently I'm a coach. I'm a life coach. I'm a author. I'm a podcaster. All of those kinds of things. I retired from the affordable housing industry 3.5 years ago. So I had a really great career as a public servant for 30 years, and then decided that God wanted me to go do something different. And so I'm starting over again.
Is that, I mean, because we're in this search series, right? Is that been part of your search? Is this idea of trying to start over and trying to find maybe Vona's purpose, if you will?
Absolutely. Without a doubt, it has been a search. It's been, I thought I was going to find the answer. I started out as a health coach. I had some health challenges because of all the stress and everything that comes with being a professional, I think, in today's world. And so I kind of stumbled on this health coaching thing, got my certification there. And it didn't take me very long to realize that for me, it was more about faith and trusting God and helping others through this life that we create for ourselves. It's like we try so hard to be and do everything, super mom, super employee, employer, servant in the church, all of those things. And I don't think that's really the way God wants us to live our lives. And so I'm just trying to help people have peace and fulfillment, not one, not the other, but both, and balance those. And I know people don't like that balance. I don't know if that's a good way to say it, but I think that we hold in a lot of things. We try and do a lot of things that God doesn't ask us to do. And I'm just trying to help people pull away from some of that and trust Him with some of the details that we burden ourselves with.
So you mentioned you're a podcaster, and I'm not embarrassed to say that, and I don't think I hopefully will ever get embarrassed about saying, hey, I have a podcast. And some people now kind of get that, and they've been around us long enough, at least around our team long enough, that they know that. And but for me, when I was thinking about starting a podcast, like I really struggled with one, hello, where do we even start? What do we talk about, right? Did you at all have that struggle or that kind of wondering of like, what do I have to say? And how on earth do I have this message that somehow is more important than somebody else's, or maybe not more important, but how does my message bring value and worth to this world and this conversation?
Yeah, that's a great question. I am all over the place with that. There are times when I feel so confident that I know exactly where I'm headed and what that message is. And there are other times when I'll fall into that comparison mode that I think we all fall into on occasion. And I'll be like, why on earth am I even trying to do this? So-and-so is so amazing and I'll never be able to compare. I should just pick up my blocks and go home. But honestly, when I first started out, I was there was a coach that I was following, and she offered a 90-day challenge to start your podcast. And she has an amazing podcast, and I still listen to her to this day. And it was kind of billed as, this will be a great way to build your clientele and all of that. And as I mentioned, God was kind of whispering in my ear, this faith thing. And so honestly, my podcast today is called Longing for More. And that was a change a year ago. When I started my podcast 2 years ago, the name of it was Reviving Your Soul. And it's based on Psalm 19:7, where it talks about that scripture, it revives our soul. And for me, that's really the basis of it all, is to point people back to scripture and help them realize that that's where it's at. That's where we're going to find that peace. That's where we're going to find the fulfillment. That's the answer to all the questions we have. So I don't really struggle that hard with material because I just use my everyday life, and then I get to have these fun conversations with people, which helps fill the gaps when I don't have anything to say.
Yeah, first off, thanks for being a little transparent on that, right? I didn't know that about you. I really didn't. You have how many episodes roughly are you at now? I know are you in the hundreds?
Yeah, actually, so as we're recording this week, the episode that you and I recorded on my show released, and that was episode 110.
That's fantastic. And by the way, for those that don't know, that's a tough feat to get to. It's kind of a little bit of a badge of honor to get to 100 episodes, because in this type of industry, lack of a better word, it's hard to get past the first couple of episodes, because you have this so much self-doubt in your mind. Like, is anybody going to listen? Is anybody going to download it? Is anybody going to care that I'm doing this? And so, in that, I got to ask, how did you come over that hurdle? I know you talked about a little bit about this comparison game, and, you had this, kind of mentor and this coach that you were kind of modeling, in some respects, modeling what you're doing after. But how did you get over that kind of mountain?
I know exactly how I did it. I can remember the conversation. As a coach, I always have a coach. I've always got somebody that's helping me through those things. And I literally remember having the conversation with my coach. And I was having all those questions and all those doubts. And she was like, wait a minute. She said, just remember, she said, if you touch one life, if one person finds Jesus because of your podcast, it will have been worth it. And, and then as the numbers kind of started happening or whatever, and I was like, man, this isn't working out the way I thought it would. She said, just remember, Jesus had 12 followers. If you get 12 or more, you're on the same lines as Jesus. The rest of them, he'll take care of all the details. And that really kept me going, because you're right. It's hard to get people to listen in and follow. And, I know that some episodes are better than others. I know that, I can even feel it. There are some where I'm just like out there pushing because it was like, that was so amazing. And then there are others that'll be like, yeah, you might want to catch it this week. And if you don't, oh well. But what I find interesting is I go back. I just recreated a whole new website, and I'm going back and manually, because I found out just that pushing the button thing that I thought was going to work to switch all my podcasts and all my blogs over, that didn't work. So I'm manually copying and pasting them over on my new site. And I'm looking through those going, that was kind of good. So that's where the book's coming in, is I'm gonna take some of that stuff and boil it down into a book.
Is there one episode or maybe a couple that jump out at you that you're like, man, that was pure gold. That was just, it moved you. It maybe didn't change your course of direction per se, but kind of made you look at, like we say so often here, right? This change of perspective, this different pair of shoes. That's our phrasing, of course, but is there one for you that kind of stands out?
There are several of them. I can't tell you how many times I'll introduce a guest and I'll be like, and this is my favorite one, because it's almost like each one is. But there's one in particular, and ironically, it's a cousin of mine's, like, be their daughter-in-law. I've never met her. Well, I met her at a funeral briefly. We're friends on Facebook, never talked, anything like that, but she was announcing that she had published a book. And I like to interview authors. I think it's kind of a fun way to help them out. And for me, I love books, so it's a fun way for me to find out what's going on. And so I asked her if she would like to do an interview, and she did. And her story, the name of her book is In God's Timing. And she tells the story of how she doesn't like to read. She doesn't like to write. She didn't anything, but she and her husband have been married 8 years, and they've been trying to have a baby and have not yet conceived. And she talks about how one day God said, I want you to write it down. And she's like, okay, I'll do that, just as soon as I get pregnant. And he said, no, I want you to do it now. And so she said she literally just sat down and wrote like this long blog, and she got just a flood of responses on it and all of that. And so then he came back and said, I want you to publish it. And she's like, yep, and I'll do that as soon as I conceive. And he's like, no, I want you to now. And she just talks about how that whole, just putting all of her faith in him, and how, she's still waiting for that day, but the growth and the experiences that she's had in learning to just fully trust in him. It was so powerful. I really love that episode. So I'd have to say that's probably the one.
That sounds powerful. I love the empathy, obviously, aspect of it. I can kind of relate with her there. Not obviously she's a woman, I'm a man, can't relate on that level, but just this idea of when you're called to do something that's out of yourself, right? That's above yourself, and then taking that calling seriously and acting on it. Yeah, that's good stuff for sure. So I'm curious about this from a couple of different standpoints. You mentioned being, a life coach, and to me, there is still this stigma perhaps around a life coach. Like, do I really need a life coach? I don't want anyone telling me what to do. How dare they come into my life and dictate things to me? And then there's the other side of it that people would say, no, I need a life coach. Like, I want somebody to come in and organize my life. I need that kind of kick in the pants to get me to the next step or the next level or whatever. So talk about what that's like and maybe
Yeah.
both sides of the coin if you're willing.
Yeah, and that's really a great question, because I think, you know, I even myself, I go through those, I really need somebody. I don't need anybody. I can do this myself. And I think for me, from my standpoint, the hardest part of it is the fact that it's like I'm talking about faith, and faith is free. You don't have to pay for salvation. You shouldn't need somebody. I mean, you can go to church and get all of that. And so, I mean, I've had a lot of inner work that I've had to do myself, and the reality is that some people can get there, and it's not on our own, because I know that the Holy Spirit is walking by our side and helping us all the time. But sometimes there are a lot of inner hurts that people need to get through before they can trust even God. And because I've got, so I started out with the health certification, and then I moved into my life certification, and then I got a mastery level certification. And so I'm able to really dig deep and find out what some of those trauma things. And I'm not a counselor, and I don't want to, it's kind of like, if you need therapy, go see a therapist. But if you're ready to move forward from where you are, I'm more than happy to do that. We can look back some, but it's more really about holding that space to help you step forward and beyond those things. It's about letting go. It's about forgiveness. We need to forgive ourselves so much. But you're right. There people are all over the place, and truly, where I have not been highly successful as a coach. I have coached people. I've been really successful with the people that I've coached. I feel like I've really made a difference, but I haven't been flooded with clients. And part of that is the inner work I've had to do. No, I'm going to say that over again. Almost all of it's been the inner work that I've had to do. It's been more about me letting go of control, all those things that I thought I could do on my own, and God saying, no, 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 no. We're going to do a little character development here, girl. And you can just keep trying all you want. I'm just going to sit here and wait until you're ready to let me do this. And so I've had my biggest challenge has been learning how to know what is His and what is mine. Because it doesn't mean that I sit on the couch and wait for the phone to ring. It means I keep doing the thing that He asked me to do, and then the next thing that He asked me to do. I don't know where this is going to end up, but I just keep doing, the thing. And I get frustrated because it's not happening in the time frame. And it literally, one time, you talk about God whispering in the ear. One day He didn't whisper. He kind of shouted it. I don't know exactly that I could say the voice, but I heard in my head, finish what you started. And that just resonated with me so much, because I have a tendency that if it's not happening the way I think it should, then I'll go find something else to do because I need to keep it moving. And he was like, no, 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 we're here. But one of the things that I have done that I think makes it easier to ease into that is I've created a mastermind community. And I call it Living Your Faith. And it's really bringing professionals together so that they can encourage and support, not me coaching one to each in a group, but the group coming together in a very small, intimate, and helping each other out. So somebody will put out what their challenge is this week, and we all take turns saying, well, I think, and have you tried, and whatever. And it's so cool to watch the community and the friendships develop. All strangers when they came to the table, and are all very, very supportive of one another. And so basically what I'm doing is I'm creating these smaller groups like that. And those are all, have a particular call, and then bringing them all together for kind of a larger community. And so that's been kind of cool. And what makes it different than any other mastermind, as far as I know, is the fact that it's all about being able to use your faith and rely on your faith to get through those challenges that we encounter when we're in the work world. So that's a long answer to your question, but
no, that's okay. It's and it was gorgeous, by the way. It was very well articulated. So I love that.
Thanks.
I love that a lot. I'm a big Googler. I don't know if anyone else's hand is up on that, but I love to Google weird stuff. Okay, maybe not that weird stuff. People's minds just went crazy, but I Googled, do I need a job coach? Do I need a life coach? Right? And so I came to this article that is from lifehack.org, and they gave me 12 steps on determining whether I need a life coach or not. I wanted to power through these with you and then get your thoughts on them if you want. So
absolutely.
Okay, so here's number one. I feel lost. I doubt myself. I have no vision, but no clear plan. Or I have a vision, but no clear plan. I want to change my profession. I'm just going to skip over that one. We're just going to kind of move on quickly from that. Just set it there and just move fast. I need to improve my health. Again, I feel like I just need to move quickly on past that one. I tend to forget things. Seriously, like it's like they're in my head. I don't always follow through. Did somebody seriously punk me right now? Like, is this real life? I'm a procrastinator. Okay, it's getting worse, Vona. We're going to need some help here momentarily. We're almost done, but I feel like it's just getting worse for me right now.
Do you feel like this was written just for you?
Yes. Yes, I do actually. Yeah. Number 9, we're almost there. Home stretch now. We're almost there. I have a lot of time to waste. Okay, fair enough. I need to make money. I need to make more money. Who doesn't want to do that, right? I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical. Okay, great. You're skeptical. I'm skeptical too. Yeah. Okay. I have self-confidence, but need a boost. So there we are. There's our 12-step lifehack.org, 12 steps to determine whether we need a life coach or not.
Yeah. I love Lifehack. It's a great resource for all kinds of cool stuff. But yeah, when in my world, and it's it's kind of like to every hammer, everything's a nail, right? But in my world, once you get coaching and you realize the value of having somebody, so it's not, and I call myself a coach and a mentor. I've been around the block a few times, and so I've pretty much experienced. I can't say I've experienced everything you're going to run into in the work world, but I'll bet I'm coming close. And so sometimes I wear my mentor hat and I just say, have you thought about this? But when I'm wearing my coach hat, it's more about, it's not me telling you what to do. It's me asking the right questions because you already know what to do. You just need to give yourself permission to acknowledge it and then move forward with it. And sometimes just having that sounding board to bounce off those crazy things that are running through your head is worth everything. There's 2 things. It's one, acknowledging that you have it there. 3 things. Acknowledging it's there, then it's having the courage to go ahead and do it. And then the 3rd thing is having the accountability to keep doing it. Because I don't know about you, and I even confessed it earlier, finish what you started. And how many times do we start things and then we either get discouraged or get distracted? And a coach will help keep you accountable. Now, there's some people out there that are really lucky and they have some really great friends or spouses or whatever that can play those roles for them, and good for them. I love my husband. We have an amazing relationship, but he is not any of those things for me. And that's okay. So anyway, that's my take on that.
Yeah. I said, I thought it was kind of cool. So, I might probably just need to stay off the internet for a while, maybe. I don't know.
Or as I mentioned before, maybe we just need to get on that phone and go through one of those sessions and work through a couple of those things.
Maybe we do, because I really feel like that, Vona could maybe get some guidance for the show that the show is so desperately seeking. Garrett has, I always tell people, Garrett probably has the hardest working job in the podcast, industry, if there is such a thing as the podcast industry. I really firmly believe that, and maybe I'm biased because, we're on this team together, this team journey, but I always feel so bad for him. And
what's his job that's so hard?
Yeah, so Garrett does a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. He'll do our show notes. He is a great sounding board for me, creatively. I might say, "Hey Garrett, I'm thinking about doing this," and he'll say, "Yeah, are you sure?" Or, "Hey, we're gonna bring this person on," and he'll say, "Oh, interesting." And his interesting sometimes is like, what do you mean by that? And he's like, well, where are you going to go, and where are you going to, what are you going to do? And so that's why I say that, because he has to work with me, and despite what people may believe, I am the worst, like, scatterbrained person on the planet. And so I'm very rarely centered at times, if that makes sense.
I'm not buying that. I'm just not buying it. That would be what I believe. What I would say is one of the lies that the devil's got you convinced to keep you from being all that you can be, because you have a really amazing perspective. I love the questions that you bring to the table. So stop telling yourself that. Have you ever seen the clip? That's a free
coaching session right there, guys.
Yes, it is. Have you ever seen, this is one of my favorites. Have you ever seen the clip? Are you a Bob Newhart fan?
Yeah, it's been a while. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, he was probably gone before.
I'm a little younger than
most,
so I do remember him from the Bob Newhart show, but it's foggy. So if that helps.
There's a clip. He was a psychiatrist. And there's a clip where he had a gal come in, and every time she would say something, he would just say, "Stop it. Just stop it." I mean, every time she would bring up a problem, just stop it, And that's kind of what I want to say to you is quit telling yourself that you're scatterbrained and you're not good, because you are really good. And so, yes, that is a free coaching session. And the first one's always free. And for you, I might even do a second one.
I might need a second one. So this always blows people's minds away. I don't typically write notes. I don't typically write questions. And the first time Garrett and I were doing a couple episodes together when we worked together, we would do phone, like we're doing right now, a phone interview. And, we sat down and we unpacked the gear, and we, start getting ready and set up and mics and headphones and all that stuff. And he said, "Where's your notes?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "Your notes, the questions you're going to ask this person that we're going to talk to right now." And I said, "Oh, Gary, you're going to find that out. I don't typically have notes." And he's like blown away that I can have this, articulate conversation, come up with questions so quickly and how that works. And I still don't to this day know how that works, but anyway.
Well,
so
to me, that's what's beautiful about it. And I that's how I do my show too. When I'm interviewing, it's all just a conversation, and I never know where it's going to go. So I'm not comfortable when you put me in a box and tell me we have to follow this formula. I can't even follow a recipe to the T, because I've got to veer off somewhere and do something different. So I think those very open, honest conversations are the best anyway. I will be really candid with you, though, when I'm doing a monologue. That thing is written out, edited, and I literally just read it on air. I cannot, as freewheeling as I can be in a conversation, the minute it's just me, I can't just talk without stumbling and stuttering and all over the place. So it's kind of the dichotomy of being Vona Johnson, I guess.
I love it, though. I love the insight. I love, obviously letting us, I call it behind the curtain, right? Inside, backstage, if you will. I always like stuff like that, because I always like to see how other people do it, because, again, I think, can we do it better? Is there, like we were talking about on your show, I try to do it better than I did the day before, right? That's a big mantra of mine. But
Yeah.
but going back to you, because I'm sure people didn't come to hear my opinion on things. Even though it's my show, I should be able to give my opinion every now and then.
That's
Stop
right.
with
I
the
do all the
emails.
time.
Stop with the texts. Stop people saying it's not about you. It's my show. I can make it about
Yeah.
me for a moment. But
Yes, you can.
I wonder about this too. Getting a little deeper into your stuff. What was that breaking point, or maybe it wasn't a breaking point, but was there even a moment or a moment of clarity that you just realized, man, this is not my life? I mean, I'm thinking of like Robin Williams and Mrs. Doubtfire. I don't know if you ever saw that movie, but
Uh-huh.
he ends up working at that like film studio, right, where they're filming this, kind of like Mr. Rogers type of show. This guy doing the dinosaur things, and he's like, this is not my life, because he's like, getting the film loaded up in the truck, and he's like, this is not what I want to do. Like, that's obviously not Robin Williams. Like, we know him as this gregarious guy and fun-loving guy, but in this movie, right, in Mrs. Doubtfire, he's doing like the most menial job, right, like the lower end entry level work, if you will. He wants to be in front of the camera, but he realizes in this moment, this is not my life. I mean, did you have that moment for you? Was there a moment of clarity?
No, for me, and it was for me. I had an amazing job. I I had a team of 12 to 14, depending on where we were at. I was not the executive director, but I was a step down. I was influencing. I was an expert, not just in my state, but in the nation. I was speaking at national conferences, and I was at the top of my game and doing really well. And like I said, it was kind of that health thing, but it was more God just saying, "Okay, girl, I this was fun, but I got more for you. There are other things that you need to accomplish." And I was like, "Really, God? Are you sure?" I don't know that I get it. And of course, I was lured in from the health thing because I've been studying health things. I have a lot of allergies and things like that I have been really successful on overcoming. And so I got into it from that standpoint. But for me, the big moment was the realization that he wanted me to step away from health coaching and start talking about my faith. And he did it. He just kept taking me into these situations where I was drawn. I was invited to give the homily at our local Heritage Festival church. It was at the uh, sports or the rodeo grounds, and I'm like, me? Are you kidding me? but it was like, okay, I can do that. So um, the thought that I was having as I was telling that, though, is that for me the big moment was it was a coach, and we were going through this kind of meditation exercise, and I literally do not remember anything that led up to this, but she was walking us, we had our eyes closed and we were deep breathing, and she was asking all these different questions we were thinking, and she stopped and she said, "What are you hiding?" And it was just like the tears just rolled, and the word that came to my mind was your faith. I was trying so hard to do all these things, and then I had this realization that that's what I had done my whole professional career. Was I would wear my professional hat, and I would dress the way that I thought I needed to dress and be the way I thought I needed to be, and then I could go, Sunday morning I would go to church and I would do all of that, but it was one or the other. And the people who really knew me well knew that I was, I was strong in my faith and did Bible studies and things like that. But I held that really close because I don't know if I was afraid people were going to be offended if I talked about it or what. And so when that coach, brought that to the forefront, it was kind of like, okay, and so that was part of that 3-year journey that I've been on, just figuring it all out. And I really feel like it's all in alignment. And I really believe that we're going to be stressed out and overwhelmed as long as we are out of alignment. And the minute that things start lining up and coming into the way that it's intended to be, when we start walking in our purpose, then all of a sudden it's just like things fall away and it feels free and it feels good.
That was powerful.
It was.
It was. No, I'm being serious. Like, it was really powerful. Like, I'm picturing, again, I'm just such a visual person, which sometimes is perhaps detrimental in some respects. I don't know how it could be, but I try to go where when someone's telling me an account or, an event that's taken place in their life, I try to put myself into their story. Maybe that's why I love what I do so much in this podcast is I really try to, again, put myself in your shoes, right?
Right.
The Birkenstocks that we're talking about. Well, thank you. That's very, very kind. But I'm in your living room having this moment with you, and I'm like, wow, what are you hiding?
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? But what's really cool about it is there are 3 times along the journey when I know you'll know when you're getting close, when you get emotional about something. And the day that the gal called me, I was supposed to be the backup speaker at this church thing. And because the guy that was supposed to do it has been a professional speaker his whole life. He was a radio personality when I was a kid. I mean, I admire this man like to no end. But he was going to maybe be out of country when it was time to do this. So he told them they need to get a backup. So when they asked me, I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever. Well, the day she called me and told me that I was on, and I wish I had the words because it's a cowboy thing. So it's like, put on your spurs, blah, 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 whatever. And I'm not a cowgirl. My dad, my family, everybody is, but I'm not. But anyway, I hung up the phone from that conversation. And I cannot explain, but I literally fell to my knees in tears. And 2 other times, like the day the podcast released or that week, I had a good friend of mine who is, we've done tons of Bible studies together and everything like that. And she called me. I didn't talk to her. I had a voicemail from her. And she just said, girl, she said, that is so powerful. She said, God has a plan for you. I'm just so grateful you're doing this. And again, I was driving down the street. I literally had to pull over and cry because it was bigger than me. And so it's like, I don't know where this is going, but I know I'm on the right path. And I just have to keep saying yes when he pulls me out of my comfort zone and take the next step.
Okay. So I'm going to do something I've never done on this show before. So we're setting a precedent here. Do you have a Bible near you or maybe you can look on a phone of some sort?
Sure.
Okay, so I'm going to have you go to the Gospel of Matthew chapter 10, verse 33, and I'd like you to read that verse for us.
Okay.
While she looks for that, 10:33. While she looks for that, if you're a listener and you're queuing into this and you're on with us, I want you to turn there as well. I want to invite you to do that. We've never done this on the show before. This is the first time ever. Vona, you're our guinea pig, if you will, if this works.
I love being a trailblazer.
All right, you're a trailblazer for sure. And we're in Oregon, right. So that works. Trailblazers are in Oregon. So what does Matthew chapter 10, verse 33 say?
It says, and this is the New Living Translation, but if anyone denies me here on earth, I will deny that person before my Father in heaven.
So as you're telling me the story and the recounting of that story about you feeling like you weren't sure if you were kind of putting on, in a sense, what I heard you say, and maybe, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're putting on Jesus in one environment and then kind of taking him off in another environment. Was that accurate?
Yeah, in a way, yeah. I mean, it was just, I believed the lie that to be professional, you couldn't have that persona. It might be offensive. I mean, I literally remember there were times when I wouldn't wear my cross necklace because I would have a big meeting and I didn't know who might not be Christian and might take it wrong. And I really hate that I did that.
And
I
again,
would not do that today.
I'm not sitting in a seat in judgment in saying right. that, you were a terrible person and, how dare you deny Jesus? And clearly scripture says right here, but everyone who denies me on earth will also be denied before, the Heavenly Father. I'm not by any means
Right.
sitting in a seat of judgment over you. I'm just calling to our attention for those who are of faith, who listen.
Yep.
What are you doing? What is that search that you've been on? Are you searching again for these things of this world? And Vona's here to tell you, you might be searching in the wrong area. We started with this crazy Google search, right? Do I need a life coach? Do I need I don't know. Do you need some direction in your life? Do you need a guidance? Do you need a compass? I love that word. And so I'm just curious, like when you were talking about that, did that ever come into your mind that you were denying him? And if so, did you ever what did that feel like if you did feel that way?
You know, I, maybe a little bit. For me, it's funny because I didn't think of this when you asked me the question before, and I didn't put it together because there was a big gap in it. For me, the defining moment, and it wasn't work related at all, but this is my why. This is why I do what I do. Years ago, 20, Cal, can it be? About 20 years ago. It's funny how you can remember every millisecond. I was at work and I was on a conference call at my desk and I had multiple lines and my phone rang and it was my husband. He didn't call very often, but whatever, probably lunch or something. And then so I didn't answer it. And then a minute later, it was my husband again. And then another couple of minutes, the phone rang and it was my dad. And I'm like, what the heck? And then another couple of minutes, Steve called and it was like, okay, what the heck? And I was on the phone with my boss and the attorney. And my boss was in her office. The attorney was in a different community. And I kind of left them. Left the phone on hold and I got up and went into the other room in the conference room that was next door to my office. And I called my husband and I'm like, what's going on? And he said, Jody died. It was a cousin of mine. And it was kind of like just the world stopped turning at that moment. And so I went and got back on the phone. It's like, I got to go. And so I left and, so 2 days later, we're at her prayer service, the night before her funeral. And it was really hard for me because as much as I loved this girl, I mean, we were close, but we weren't like together all the time close. We grew up together, but we kind of drifted apart in our adult lives. I was at this prayer service and I didn't know. I didn't know if she had been saved. And it was killing me. But as the preacher went on and he was talking about her and he talked about how she would come into his office and she would fight with him about his sermon and she would challenge him on whether he was right or wrong. It was like, oh, thank God. She was just fine. And I literally just broke down and cried because I knew that she was going to be there when I got to heaven. And I promised myself that day that I was never going to miss the opportunity to tell somebody that I loved about my God and Jesus Christ and what they needed to do to be saved. And I can't say that I've done that perfectly, but that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, because we all need to have that promise to ourselves. We all need to make sure that everybody we love is at that reunion when we get there. I actually have a statue, a little thing that I bought after she died, and it's a figurine of two women hugging and dancing, and it's Women of the Way or something like that. But it's basically the reunion and what it's going to be like when we're together again. And that reminds me of that commitment to myself. And I literally had, my birthday was a couple of weeks ago, and we were at a family thing, one of our first get-togethers because of all the COVID thing. And there were a couple of people there who one of them professors, and I'm not my place to judge, but I question sometimes. Another one is a proclaimed agnostic. And we got into this discussion about religion, and my sister was like, whoa, wait, we are not going to have this conversation. And I said, wait, this is my birthday. I get to have the last word. And so I told him that story, and I said, I just want you guys to know that I feel I will have this conversation with you anytime. This is your invitation. I feel like I have now done my obligation. If you guys don't want to talk about it, fine. But I needed to say this because I really care about you and I really want you to be there. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I want to empower every one of those listeners to do the same thing.
I love that. I need a minute.
Sorry, that was a long story.
No, you're good. Don't even worry about that. I'm just trying to gather myself after I heard what I just heard. I never realized a verse would create what just happened. That was powerful.
Thank you.
Vona, you're just oozing with wisdom. And I love that about you. I love the fact that through a planted seed in my heart that my wife, as you know the story for those that listen long enough because we were on your show, but if she never says to me, start a podcast, I don't meet Vona Johnson.
Right?
I don't meet the 80 some odd people that we lovingly say, had their shoes on with, we tried our best to squeeze our 10 and a half, 11 foot into these shoes. To me, that doesn't happen. And that is honest to God why I love doing this, is because I get to hear so many cool just encounters every day, little gems, a little treasure chest of awesome. So that was awesome. That was good stuff. So we'll kind of try to wrap up here the best we can. I don't know how we're gonna do this, but we're gonna try. And I'm really sad.
Do one of those transitions again.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to transition here, but it's really sad because I get so excitement when we start it. When we start an episode, when we start recording together, and then I get very sad when I see it coming to an end. It's like I don't want it to end. I want the conversation to go longer and farther. In any event,
it will. It will. These guys might not all be there, but I'm pretty sure, Neil, you and I will have more conversations.
I hope so. For sure, because I do. I love what you're doing, and I'm privileged to, in my own little way, spur someone on to greater things, and I just do. I value what you brought to us today. But I want to kind of, as I said, wrap up with this thought. And that's this, and I often ask this question, and I'm always fascinated by the answer of it. But how do you want to be remembered, and what do you want to be maybe remembered for?
I want to be remembered for that person that helped people realize the impact that they're having on other people's lives, and to let go of all of the stuff that doesn't matter, and to really cling to the things that do matter, and primarily, their faith and their relationship with Jesus, but the other relationships too. I want to help them bring peace into their life, because I don't think we were intended to be these crazy, harried, scrambling everywhere people that we've made ourselves. That's what's been cool about COVID, is it's made us slow down. I just hope people keep it.
Yeah, I think COVID has been good from that standpoint. I mean, if we're gonna give COVID some credit for something, it did create people this idea of slowing down. My hands up on that. I am saddened that there was no college basketball this last year. Very sad by that.
My soap opera is not even on. Can you imagine?
Are you kidding me? Days of Our Lives has been canceled. Something.
Bold and the Beautiful.
Oh, all right. Well, at least it wasn't like Guiding Light or something of that nature.
Right. Well, that was canceled years ago.
Oh, I don't even know. I'm just pulling out whatever just popped into my head. But Vona, how can people get in touch with you, and where can people go and listen to your show and what you're doing?
It's all right there at vonajohnson.com. That's VONA1N. Yes, it's spelled wrong. Vona Johnson.com with an O, Johnson. I've never seen Johnson with an E, by the way. Anyway, yeah, there's a tab for my podcast. If you don't like podcasts, there's the monologues are there in the form of a blog. But there's an ebook there. The top reasons why you feel unfulfilled and what to do about it. I've got my latest deal is post COVID. If you're dreading going back to that crazy harried life that you had before, I've got a little guide, just some questions to lead you through creating a life of peace and fulfillment, picking out the things you want to bring back and what things you don't, and kind of sorting it out and designing a life that you love. So it's all right there. I would love for people to stop in, and I would love to have a conversation. If anybody is curious about what might be hiding in their life, I would love to help figure that out. That's what brings me joy.
And you're on the social medias too, right? You have some Facebook and Instagrams. What are those?
Yeah. Vona Johnson on Facebook. It's either Vona Johnson or Vona Johnson Coaching. I'm not good at remembering. I think Vona Johnson Coaching on most. I don't know. But you can find links on my website to those too. I apologize.
That's okay.
Not remembering.
That's all right. That's all right. You know, we're not judging. I mean, the social media stuff might be, a little newer to you, maybe. I don't know.
I've been around for a while. It's just, I need to just remember which ones are which. But I think Instagram and probably Facebook or Vona Johnson Coaching, and the other two are LinkedIn and Facebook. I don't know. Anyway,
we'll link all those in our show. We'll help you out.
Yeah.
We'll find those for you. We'll link them in our show notes. So
I can send them to you. I just can't think of them off the top of my head.
Yeah, we'll make Garrett do some work today, right? Garrett needs to do some work today. So we'll make Garrett do something. He needs to do something. That's all I'm saying. We'll just find something for him to do.
I have a feeling you are in big trouble right now.
I probably am. I probably am. But I want to end with one last question because one just kind of creeped into my head, which is dangerous sometimes. But I think it's important to say. So I'm thinking of a woman who just may be struggling with some self-doubt, some self-esteem issues, some, maybe some body image issues, maybe some just, I call it your mentality, right? What would you say to her? Or maybe even him. We'll make it both, Yeah. What would you say to them? And I hate to call people a them, but I think that is proper English, or those people. That even sounds bad. I don't know. What would you say to that people group?
I would remind them that they are God's daughter, God's son. They were created by the creator of the earth, of the world. And he knows every detail. I mean, he knew everything about us before we were even born. And he doesn't make mistakes. He has given each and every one of us gifts and talents that we can use, and experiences that we use as we weave our life through our lives, and we bring those together to fulfill the purpose that he has. And I think sometimes when we started out talking about comparison, I think sometimes we look at other people and I'm not as pretty as she is, or I'm not as smart as she is, or whatever. My opportunities are different. And the beautiful thing of it is that we don't need to look at what anybody else is doing. All we have to do, like you were saying earlier, we just have to be better each day. We just have to figure out what it is he's asking us to take, what step it is, the next step, and then take it, and then just keep one in front of the other. And there are times, I mean, sometimes we just get knocked down, and that's when he carries us. But at some point, he will lift us up, and he will put us at a point where we can do it on our own. Or if not, then maybe that's our purpose, is to allow others to serve.
Yeah. Again, I just think you have so much wisdom. So I hope people kind of check out what you're doing. And again, we'll make Garrett link all that in our show notes so they can find out more about you, Vona. So our game, I love to end a show with a game. And so this is our game we like to call Senseless. Of course, Vona, you know this, being in the health industry that you were in. You know that we have 5 senses, right?
Right.
Okay, just checking. There are those.
I use those in my coaching. Actually, we use those to create our anchors. So,
perfect.
Yes.
So I just want to make sure. I did have somebody say once, we have 5, like with a question. So I was like, yeah, think about it. We have 5. So anyway, so here's our dice roll. You're in South Dakota, not in Oregon or Oregon, depending on how you want to say it. I say Oregon, but you got a number 4. I rolled for you. It was awesome. It was a good roll. You got a number 4. So what sound or noise do you love to hear?
That's a good one for me. I love music, and I love going to outdoor music festivals, and still holding my breath that we go to one every year in the hills, and I'm still holding my breath that will be held in the middle of September. But yes, I love good music. In fact, I was going to tell you, I really like your song, your intro. That's cool.
Yeah. So the story behind it, I gave the gentleman who sang it, his name is Lucas, and it's a guy I go to church with. And we were starting the show, and I really wanted, the few podcasts that I had listened to before I started didn't have a theme song. And I'm a big TV guy. Like, that's my background. Like, I always wanted to be in TV. And so I thought our show needs a theme song, right? When it comes on, like that's the theme song. And so I gave him Other People's Shoes Perspective. That's all I gave him. And he came back with What You Hear Now. And then we added in the guitar part with our worship leader because it needed some music behind it, because it just does. And every good song needs like a little music behind it. A little music bed, I think, is the term that you could use. But anyway, so that's the story behind the song. And we went away from it in a season back last season, and because I had a friend say I can write it better. There's always those that are out there that want to do it better, right? So we tried it, and I mean, I'm not gonna say I hated it, but I just felt like for this season I wanted to go back to where we started and really go back to the essence of the show, and so therefore we brought it back, and so. My brother-in-law, who is our sponsor, so shout out to Art of Plumbing, and I think this is the first time I've probably given a shout out in a while for him, but he's our sponsor. He does a lot for the show financially in some respects, and he thought I had bought the song, or that somebody had somebody out there had already made it. I'm like, no, that's an original. So there is the story behind the song. So there you go.
Well, I hope that Lucas is doing music somewhere, and if I ever get to Oregon, I'd like to go listen to more because I like that kind of music. So very cool.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you, like, you talk about hopefully we can get music again. I know a lot of artists, not only Christian artists, but secular artists have been obviously shut down because of COVID, can't get in arenas and amphitheaters and things of that nature. But is there a certain style or music that you would love to hear more than another?
Well, so I like, like the classic rock and stuff like that. The festival that I'm talking about, they have what they call the Deadwood Jam in the beautiful Black Hills of South Dakota. And so we sit on historic Deadwood Main Street, and there's mountains all around, and it's just gorgeous. And so we get everything from blues, reggae, not much country, maybe every once in a while they'll sneak one in, but just kind of folk stuff, just a nice mix. But my favorite's probably blues.
All right, some B.B. King maybe, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All right.
For sure.
Well, Vona, thanks again so much for coming on. I just want to say, and I mean this, and I think you know it, but you really are a gem. And it has been such a pleasure getting to know you and getting to know more of what you're doing. And I, to be honest, I am just excited about it. And I just wish you, not only great blessings in what you're doing, but I just really, truly believe also that you can help people. But the question is if they're going to surrender enough to allow someone to step into their life and speak into their life. And I hope they do. I hope that they would to take that into account.
Here's the deal. I think that's why God called me to do the podcast. I think that's why God called me to write the book, is that there's only going to be a handful that are going to step forward and go all in with the coaching and, you know, the mastermind and whatever. And that's okay. He has blessed me in so many ways that I'm just here to serve. And I'm just doing, you know, a couple of times you've really been very gracious and said some really kind things about me. And honestly, it's all the Holy Spirit. I just say what he tells me to say and do what he tells me to do. And that's the answer, folks, right there. So thank you for having me. I always enjoy our conversations, and it does feel like we're just sitting down having a cup of coffee. So someday we're going to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I really do. I look forward to that. I would love one day, you know, if funds were, you know, obviously no limit, which I don't know if will ever happen, but who knows? You know, crazier things have been known to happen. I would love to actually go visit people face to face and bring them a token of generosity to say, hey, thanks for giving us, you know, a piece of what you gave us, maybe a pair of shoes or something. I don't know. That sounds wacky perhaps, but
Birkenstock all the way,
maybe,
39.
I don't know.
Any style, I'm up.
Yeah. Well, we have a lot of those in Oregon, so it should be pretty easy to meet that need of yours. But Vona, I just, again, thank you for coming on and just really appreciate it. So guys, will you do me a favor? I know I ask a lot of favors, but will you go check out what Vona's doing? Will you do me that favor? Will you go and just at least see if that's something that she can help you in? And if it is, great. There's ways to reach out to her. There's ways for her to get in contact with you. She wants to continue the conversation, much like we do. But guys, I mean that. Find a way to have somebody really speak truth into your life, because I think we've all been locked up so long now. We've believed these lies. And to me, I think it's time to finally admit to ourselves that we've been hiding and that we've been scared and that we need some help. It's okay to admit that you need help. I admit I need help all the time. Hello. That's why we have a Garrett, right? So guys, go find your Garrett today. Maybe that's Vona, maybe that's somebody else, but really go find somebody that's going to speak truth into your lives. And I just want to remind you guys of this, of course, as we say so often, remember when you walk in other people's shoes, you really do get a different perspective on life. On behalf of executive producer Garrett and myself, Neil Matthews, thank you so much for listening, and stay tuned till next week when we walk in other people's shoes. Thank you so much for joining us on Other People's Shoes this week. As you know, I'm your host, Neil Matthews. I want to say thank you again to our guest, Vona, for coming on, giving us some moments today to share with us how we can get out of that hidden place, how we can tap into that and really see our more, really have our more, not from a gratification standpoint, no, but the more of our life and this new normal that we're in, that she's on, this quest that she's on as well. It was just really excited to hear her perspective on so many things. If you'd like to know more about Vona, we of course have linked her information in our show notes. And of course, we would love for you to remember next week as we walk into the search for encouragement. In fact, here's a little sneak preview of next week's guest.
The best way that you can understand what's going on in society right now is to read. Don't talk. It's not about conversation. You can't legitimately sit down like one of your podcast shows I listen to at the table until you sit down and you have to get acclimated to the history of Blacks and African American people first. Because let me explain something to you. Once you get the history of what our struggle has been, it then allows you to understand the anger first.
That's right. We're going back out to the East Coast. We're going to be sitting with an author by the name of Michael Arterberry, and he is also a motivational speaker. And he's written this book, 250 Days of Encouragement, which has me excited. Cannot wait to get our copy. We have ordered one and should be here any day now. Speaking of next week, as we've alluded to, Michael will be joining us. We, of course, would love for you to join us as well. And if you're not sure still how to find us or to listen to past, present, and future episodes, let me remind you of this, opspodcast.com. Of course, is the place to be each and every Wednesday, where a brand shiny and new episode is available to you. And of course, our episodes are on demand as well, so you can look back through the catalog of episodes that we have, 80 plus now. We are excited about that. We, of course, would love to hear from you as the listener. We, of course, would love to hear some feedback, some voicemails, text messages, anything you want to do. You can reach out to us at 203-548-7463. That's 203-548-7463. And if you're interested in being a guest, we, of course, would love to interact with you there as well. Speaking of interacting, we, of course, are on social media, OPS Podcast Show under Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We do post daily and would love to interact with you there. And, of course, guys, remember this. When you walk in other people's shoes, you really do get a different perspective on life. On behalf of executive producer Garrett and myself, Neil Matthews, join us back here next Wednesday as we walk in other people's shoes.